Now you know about the history of the actual ship in real life, but what does the North Carolina look like in game? And first of all, I will tell you, maybe I'm biased. I am definitely American battleship biased. But I have an absolute blast in this thing. It is probably one of the most fun battleships that I have played in this game ever. Um, Maybe that's just because I'm American battleship biased. I love the American battleships. They're one of my favorite classes, ship classes in the game. So, but it is, you get, decent speed, um, pretty decent HP. Um, your AA is just fantastic. It's pretty much unrivaled, as are all the other American battleships, pretty much. Um, the the one thing I will say that is kind of unique to North Carolina is that you get the if we go to our stats, first off, we'll go artillery first. So you get 406 millimeter Mark 6 guns. You get three turrets of 3 guns, so you get 9 of them. And those are the Mark 6 16-inch guns. Are the what are on the South Dakotas. So you get South Dakota class guns if you're familiar with the Alabama or Massachusetts in game right now, which I'm sure anyone watching this is. They're also fantastic ships in their own regard. I might do a separate video on Alabama later down the road. But yeah, just fantastic ships. So you do get these 16-inch South Dakota class guns at tier 6, which if you are in your actual, if you are placed in your actual, matchmaking appropriate tier, they are absolutely lethal. They tear apart pretty much any ship. The shells at least tear apart any ship that is broadside, angled, bow on, you name it. The 16-inch shell, not a whole lot of stuff armor-wise overmatches a 16-inch shell at tier 6, so that's really unique. So you get a firing range of 16.8 kilometers. That's on the above average side. The only really rivals that you have would be Japan and their Nagato. If you have a full stacked Takagi build, Japanese range with the battleships at tier 5 and tier 6 can get pretty insane. But you do have above average range. Reload time. So the reload time is 32 seconds, which is absolute trash. And that's what turns a lot of people off of the American battleships, is the reload time is too long. And I get that. You want to, put out more DPM, more shells per minute. But honestly, I would say with these guns, it is most of the time worth the wait. Yeah, 180-second turn time for the turrets is a little bit above average. Average is about, I would say 30 to 32. So it's slightly above average to average. So it's not horrible. You don't really have to build into it to make it better. At least I haven't had really a problem with it. So that's good. The one thing I will say is that with these guns, and you'll see kind of in the gameplay in a couple clips later on, especially in one clip where I'm shooting at a destroyer, they do tend to troll you sometimes with dispersion. This ship has been nerfed a little bit. I remember when it first came out, I started playing that these guns were like rail guns. They were laser pointers. Like wherever you pointed that reticle on your screen and zoomed in, that's where they were going to go. Like there's absolutely no chance for bad dispersion. Now in the updates since, they've kind of nerfed that a little bit. It's not bad. Dispersion in it isn't bad. It's just not as good as it used to be. It's more horizontal dispersion. So if you're shooting at a broadside target, that actually comes in more in handy actually, because you get a wider spread of shells on a longer target. But just keep that in mind. Occasionally they will troll you, and it's not as accurate as the Iowa or South Dakotas at tier 7. So just keep that in mind. The AP shell damage is minus 14,800. That is with a fully equipped Sims, William Sims. I think I have him at like 16 legendary. Um, so just keep that in mind. The average is about like 13,500, so somewhere in there, which is still really, really good. That's still above average for the tier. HE shell damage is 5,700 with a 36% chance to set fires. That's 36% is pretty average. That's not too crazy. That's also not bad. So, but I wouldn't recommend using HE just because it just takes too long to reload. So, that fire chance, that possible fire chance over 32 seconds of time isn't really worth it. Your AP shells are gonna pretty much pen anything as long as you know where to aim, either at the the water line or the superstructure. They'll pretty much pen anything and get decent damage out of it. So don't really use HE unless you're firing at destroyers. Obviously, it's really the only time you should be using HE in an American battleship is for destroyers. For secondary armament, I always just show you what they look like real quick in case some of you are new to the game or don't even really know what the 5-inch guns are. There they are. There's 5 of them on each side. You can see there's 2 barrels per turret. There's 5 each side, so you get 20 5-inch guns on the side there. So they aren't bad. They're accurate for sure. They are way more accurate than the German secondaries. That's kind of that's like the American secondary batteries claim to fame, is that it's pretty darn accurate. The downside is it's a shorter range and a longer reload time than the Germans. So it's not going to be as kind of overwhelming a secondary battery as the German ships of like Gneisenau and Scharnhorst and Brandenburg and all those crazy German secondaries. But they do decent damage. They're no Massachusetts secondaries, obviously, but they're good. They're pretty average. I mean, there's nothing really outstanding about them. But they're just kind of there. Maybe putting out an extra 1,000, 2,000 damage here or there. So just keep that in mind. They're not really worth sailing full broadside to get all your secondaries. Don't do that in this ship. Really, the only American ship you should be doing that in is Massachusetts, like I said. So keep in mind secondaries are good, but nothing too crazy. Survivability of the ship, you get 60,000 hit points, which is pretty average for the tier. There's a couple more. I think the Nagato has more health, and I think one of the British ships does as well. I think I want to say I think it's the Hood. I think the Hood has way more health. But you're pretty average in terms of hit points for the tier. You'll fit in right along, like King George and ships like that. The armor we'll get to in a little bit. The torpedo damage reduction is 25%, so it's actually not that good. That's below average. Average torpedo reduction is about 30%, so it's a little bit below average. It's actually not good at all. Keep that in mind. The AA defense, I won't really talk about it that much. I will just say that it is pretty much unrivaled in terms of any battleship in the tier. It is by far the best AA setup that you could possibly get on any ship, any battleship. As long as you know kind of what you're doing about battling enemy planes, as long as you dodge torpedoes as they're incoming, and try and turn to evade the dive bombers, carriers will not really be that much of a pest. A smart carrier player won't really even bother you. So to keep that in mind, you get the 20mm Orlikins, you get the 40mm Bofors. And then your 5-inch guns also act as kind of a dual. They're also anti-aircraft as well as just the surface targets. So that's kind of cool how the I forgot to say this earlier, but the American 5-inch secondaries are a dual-purpose gun, so they're anti-air and also surface targets. So you get that, which is pretty cool. Maneuverability, so its maximum speed is 25 knots, which is again pretty average. You know, nothing really outstanding about it. When I say the fast class of battleships, in 25 knots, that's fast for Americans. If any of you have played the Tier 4 and Tier 5 dreadnoughts, you know what I mean. It's really slow, so this should feel like lightning compared to the, you know, ships like Arizona and Tennessee and West Virginia that go like, you know, negative knots. It feels like sometimes. You know, there are obviously a lot of ships that are faster than you at this tier. The Italians are faster. The French with their Lyon is faster. KGV, I believe, is about 3 or 4 knots faster. So is Hood. Nagato is, I think, a little slower. So you have that going for you. You are faster, a little bit faster than the Japanese. So keep that in mind. Again, turning circle radius is a little bit. It's okay. It's pretty good. I mean, it's not. It's pretty good. I'll leave it at that. It's about the same as the South Dakota class, to give you perspective. So it's not bad. It's not great. Rotor shift time, a little bit above average, below average. So it's about 1 second below average, maybe 0.7 seconds. But again, nothing to really be concerned about. I run the steering gears modification. I recommend you do that. Make the ship really maneuverable. And concealment, not really going to talk about concealment because it's a battleship. It doesn't really matter that much. So yeah, in terms of the armor on this thing, I can't really say it's good. It's decent. The superstructure will hold its own, although it is. You gotta watch out for HE spammers of, you know, HE cruisers, because you do have a very big, you know, fat superstructure that is very easy to set on fire, compared to other ships. So keep that in mind, that the HE cruisers will have a great time with you farming damage, and that happens a lot in this ship. You're just a big target, easy for, you know, all those Russian cruisers, the Molotov, the Budiani, I think it's the Shores. I haven't played Russian cruisers yet, so I don't really know. But yeah, be mindful of that. The Citadel here is, you know, pretty. It's a little bit raised above the waterline. So, you know, just like in any battleship, and you guys have probably been playing this, so you know just not to go flat broadside. You will, I can guarantee you, like in any other ship in this game, you will be punished severely if you go full broadside like I am showing you right now in this thing. That being said, the other thing that you can't do is you cannot bow tank. So you only have 26 millimeters of bow armor, which can't really fit anything 15 inches, I believe. I think it's 15. 15 inches or above will overmatch your bow armor and go straight through to that Citadel. So you don't want to, in terms of battleships, you can do it with cruisers if you want, and destroyers. But in terms of facing other battleships, especially at close range, you do not want to bow tank. Not a good idea in this ship. Instead, you kind of want to angle a little bit out like this. Show them a little bit of that armor belt. That's the yellow portion, the 29 millimeter armor belt. You want to show them a little bit of that. There is a chance that you could get citadeled from the kind of this angle, from the side angle, but it's a lot less rare than, you know, the shell's just going straight through your bow. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to bow tank. Don't want to go. It's not an Iowa, so you don't want to bow tank. Don't want to go full broadside, obviously. So keep that in mind. Last thing before we get to the gameplay, is just an overview. Um, the game thinks that it is agile, which is above average ability to change direction, which is kind of true. Not the most agile battleship ever, but I've seen worse. So, um, yeah, its sticky shot is reduced ricochet chances, greater chances of penetrating enemy ship armor at sharper angles. That is true, just because of these. Obviously, your 16-inch guns at tier 6 will have a very, very good time digging into pretty much anything, as long as you're aiming them in the correct spot. They will pretty much dig into anything. Couple chances for overpens and ricochets, but I said again, if they're angled and you're shooting at their superstructure, if they're full broadside and you're shooting at their belt armor, you're pretty much gonna get full penetrations, no matter what. North Carolina, the first U.S. battleship of the new generation. The key advantage over her predecessors of this type was significantly increased speed. In contrast to preceding ships of the same type, she featured a thinner armor belt, but had a very solid horizontal armor protection and a superior AA armament, including numerous dual-purpose artillery, which are those 5-inch turrets that we talked about. So, how do you play the North Carolina? There's really no good definitive answer for that. You do have the range to sit farther back map and just snipe people. So you can do that. I would not recommend playing up close and personal to other ships, unless you absolutely have to. It's not a brawler battleship like Massachusetts or Alabama. So I wouldn't get too close up to people on a regular basis. You can't really play like in Iowa because of the bad hull armor, or your bad bow armor. So, you just kind of have to find a playstyle that works for you. Push up when needed, retreat when needed. Try and, stay with your team, help your teammates out. And I think overall is it the most overpowered ship in the game? No, it's not. But it is at tier 6. It is a fine ship. It does pretty much everything that you need to do. Whether that be absolutely just destroying, pummeling, crippling battleships from decent ranges with those 16 inches, or obliterating destroyers if they get too cocky with your HE. Like I said, the HE on the ship isn't bad. It's just you don't really need to use it as if you have really, really good AP. And I will say that since the accuracy has been nerfed, I have found it hard. Maybe this is just me and my luck, but I have found it harder to Citadel cruisers. I've gotten a lot of either missed shots or overpens. Which that could just be a normal thing. That could just be my bad luck RNG. I'm not really sure, but just keep that in the back of your head as you're playing this thing. And because of its reload time, you can't really get that many shots off on a broadside cruiser before they correct course and angle away from you. So you don't really have the reload time to keep up with that. So not the best. It's still decent, but not the best cruiser deleter in the world. The last thing I will say before we get to the gameplay is I just want to talk about the heal real quick. You do have a little bit of an above average regen, which is nice. You have about 200 health more than the average one, I believe. So it is nice to have that extra regen capability in there, and you do get 3 of them. And I usually run spotter planes to help with the accuracy. There's really no reason to run secondaries unless you're Massachusetts, and there's really no reason to run the fighter plane either because your AA is basically on steroids. So yeah, that is the North Carolina. Awesome ship. Super excited to go aboard um, this week. Right now, I think we're gonna get to the gameplay. We'll see what I end up recording. It's not gonna be a whole lot. I'm trying to get this video out before I leave for Wilmington. So not gonna be a whole lot. Maybe 4, 5, 6 minutes worth of gameplay there. So just keep that in mind. Yeah, but I hope you guys enjoyed my walkthrough of the ship. Let me know what you think I should do for my next video. I was thinking either Nelson or maybe a destroyer, Japanese destroyer, or even maybe the Alabama. I don't know, but we'll see. So yeah, thank you guys, and enjoy the gameplay.
Problem solved, sir. Torpedoes to port. Spotter airborne. Enemy heavily. Spotter airborne. The ship is. Spotter airborne. Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy. Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy. Melde Zielposition.
Nope.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Mamma mia, that's a spicy meatball.
I like your cut, G.
Spotter destroyed.
No,
Enemy cruiser destroyed.
no, don't do it.
Battle ends in 5 minutes.
No, no, don't do it.
I've got you in my sights.
Oh, brother!
And look at Randy Orton slithering.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!